I watch it for the soundtrack. It was kind of dumb. And I started working with children. Oh, that's what that is. If you go to Bible camp, you know it's just a convoluted storyline. Why did I not know this? That just baffled me. Hannah, no offense, you're underthinking the situation. Hi guys, welcome back to another Nerd Rants video. If you're watching this when I schedule it to come out, I am currently at camp, and so yeah, well, finishing camp. It's yeah, we're just gonna talk about all of the random movies and stuff that I watched or rewatched during my weird interim period, because I did not realize how thoroughly fate had broken me, like broken my brain, until we're sitting here almost like a month after I finished it, and I still can't watch a show. Like, I have not started a show yet. It's bad. It's so bad. So yeah, I've just been watching lots of random movies and rewatching some. So yeah, we're just gonna quickly go through all of these. Some of them I don't have a whole lot to say about because they're rewatched, but I never made a video about them, so we'll just go through it. There were like 4 things that I rewatched, and then some like 3 new things that I did. So I rewatched Julie and the Phantoms. 8 episode series, unfortunately got canceled. The soundtrack's great. Like, I could care less, honestly, about most of the plot stuff that's happening. I watch it for the soundtrack because it's great, and all of the people in the cast are just incredible singers, and it's insane. So yeah, I watched that for the music, because I just randomly, I've just been scratching itches since I finished Fate. And one of them, the first one I got, was to watch Julie and the Phantoms for the soundtrack. And yeah, like, it was enough of an itch that I went I couldn't just go on Spotify and read and listen through the soundtrack. I had to watch it. Like, I wanted the visuals, I guess. Also, the versions in the show, because they record a lot of it live, the show versions, because they're then like the live versions, are in my opinion better than the recorded versions, because there are things and stuff that they add in the live versions that go wrong with context or whatever else, that are just cooler, and I like them, and I prefer the live recordings, but we don't have those on Spotify, so I just deal with the original recordings or whatever. But yeah, Julie and the Phantoms. If you're into music, I recommend. It's pretty good. It made, like, the music was great, and it made me sad that the second season got canceled. Because, you know, Netflix can't continue a good show. Why would it do that? I also rewatched Disenchanted. This one, it's really sad. It took me like 4 days, 4 sittings to finish, because there were just so many things happening that week. And I would get like a half hour into it, and then I had to go do a thing, and then that lasted until I went to bed, and it was not so. But yeah, Disenchanted, which, as far as sequels go that are more than a decade after the original movie, it was not that bad. I personally enjoyed it. It was pretty much there just to be chock full of Disney references, which is great. It was fun. The music was pretty good. They're not as good as the first one, obviously, but still pretty good, and I have songs from the soundtrack on my playlist. But yeah, that one was pretty good, and it was kind of a unique take on it. Like, you think, what else can they do with this world? They figured something out, and it was cool, and it was interesting. And yeah, I enjoyed it, and it was just a very fun movie, and it took me 4 sittings to finish. It was kind of dumb, but I did finish it. Yeah, And then we have Ella Enchanted, which is just a classic and part of my childhood. It's early Anne Hathaway, and playing kind of a different version of Cinderella, where it's not just like she's forced into this situation. Like, her dad doesn't die. She has just been gifted with obedience, so she has to do anything that someone tells her to do, and it doesn't matter what the context is because it's just whatever. So it's like someone uses a figure of speech, like hop to it, and she starts jumping away. And so it's just like, oof. And so it's makes it comical, but you also realize this is awful. And like, what the heck, fairy godmother lady, what were you even thinking? And so the movie is her stepsisters, one of them at least, figures out this little curse of hers and makes her do something awful to her friend. And then she's like, nope, that's it, I can't do this anymore, and sets out on a journey to find this fairy that cursed her and get her to take it back. And it's great. It's kind of great. Yeah, it's, like I said, classic. It's great. It's kind of a jukebox musical, so it's just all of the music is covers. Yeah, except maybe when they enter the elves, because okay, the world itself is honestly pretty dark. So we have the prince's uncle. His father died and his prince took over as regent, or his uncle took over as regent, excuse me. And under his uncle's rule, there has been mass segregation between the species, and he's like stolen the giants and the trolls and the giants and the ogres and whatever's land, and he's limited the career options for different species. So like, elves can't be lawyers, just super random. It's yeah, so we have all of this happening in the background too, and having Anne Hathaway's character Ella be very much against all of this. And then on top of that, the world itself is kind of a weird mix between like kind of medieval fantasy-esque and fantasy and like modern. So there's a mall with like, there's wooden stairs, escalator, and the lawyers are a thing, and some of the clothes are pretty modern. So it's a fun little mix between that, which makes the world in itself just kind of fun to watch, and how they mix the things. It's just fun. It's just fun. I love it. And obviously she falls for the prince, even though she doesn't like what the royals are doing. She sees, oh, you're not necessarily like your uncle, and then speaks to his rational side and is like, be your own person, stop relying solely on your uncle. It's like, he's not always right, and he's not as good as you think he is. Also, the king, regent, whatever, prince's uncle is I don't remember the actor's name. The guy who plays Wesley in The Princess Bride, which I did not notice until this last rewatch. He started talking, I looked at his face and went, Wesley? And I looked it up like that. No, that's not right. He's playing like the opposite of Wesley's character. It's great. But yeah, I did not even, it didn't register with me that it was the same actor until I rewatched it. It's great. So yeah, and then there's one more I rewatched. I have no idea how many people know about this movie. I personally love it. It's called A Week Away. It is a movie about Bible camp. It's so good. It's another kind of jukebox musical, so it's all covers, and there's like 4. It's a mix between, they have a couple original songs, and that's like half of the soundtrack, and the other half of the soundtrack is just covers of other songs. And they're all Christian songs. There's either reference to God or they're just established Christian songs. So that's great. One of them is a lullaby from VeggieTales, but revamped to just be a love song that one of the characters sings in a daydream. And first time I watched this movie, I was like, okay, that's random. It's the only one that doesn't like reference God, whatever. And then I started working with children and listening to like kids Christian songs, and then that song, the original version of the VeggieTales song comes up, and I'm like, that sounds familiar. Okay, whatever. And then I rewatched a week away, and I went, oh, that's what that is. And I died a little bit. It's so random. I love it. I love that they just straight up did a cover of a VeggieTales song, but the change in context and this change in vibe is so drastic. Oh, I mean, the vibe honestly isn't that. It goes from more of a... jazzy is not the right word, but it's the word that I'm thinking of. It goes from that to like a rocky, and it's great. So yeah, it's just so good. It's just Bible camp, and they're crazy, and they're competitive, and there's crazy games happening, and they have some like cool heartfelt moments where the characters like show it's like, this is like my spot, and then like my special spot. Like, if you go to Bible camp, you know you have a special spot. and just, you know, the campfire testimonies, they're always great. And just the relationships are so pure, and there's like the villain character, but he's not a villain. He's just a bit of a jealous jerk sometimes, which is just relatable. We're all jealous jerks sometimes. They just amplify it a little bit in his character to have kind of a villain, I guess. Even though there's not a villain. But yeah, it's great. It's just, I think it's a great representation of how camp goes. Just the sheer chaos and craziness and how insane people are. Because we're all crazy at Bible camp. It's just a fact. So yeah, that one's just so fun. It's a little bit of a comfort movie, honestly. I was listening to the soundtrack in the classroom when I got into work every day this week, or last week, I guess, when this is coming out, as prep for camp. And I'm recording this before I leave, but I will probably be listening to it on the way up as well. If I carpool with my boyfriend, I will make him listen to it. Well, at least once. So yeah, that's the ones I rewatched. I recommend all of them. Of them, probably mostly Ella, Enchanted, and A Week Away. They're definitely the better of the four. They're just wonderful. Okay, there are three new, not necessarily newer. Two of them are newer, and one of them is an older one that I just hadn't seen before. So there are three new movies. Ones I first time watchers, I guess. Yeah, one of them's got a little rant to go with it. We'll save that one for last. Okay, Fall Guy. Fall Guy's kind of great. It's some sort of combination between action and comedy. It mixes pretty well. I do appreciate that. It mixes the comedy and the action pretty well. But it's a little ridiculous. It's just a convoluted storyline, which for the type of movie that it is, it works. It's a great time, in all honesty. Emily Blunt's always just wonderful. Emily Blunt's great. She is playing a director of this sci-fi romance thriller, whatever that is happening. And it's just her story with this stunt guy, who gets roped into being involved in this movie. But what I appreciate is Emily Blunt's character is super, super, super dedicated to practical effects. Like, everything is for real except, you know, the things that can't be. Like, the alien characters, because, you know, sci-fi, it's aliens versus humans, which are fun because they're all like cowboys. Basically cowboys and aliens, a little bit, except the overarching plot is a love story. But yeah, all of the aliens are just like full prosthetic costumes. It's great. You just see the people walking around in alien costumes. It's wonderful. And all of the stunts are done, actually done. And there's a giant ship in a cliff that as a set piece. It's wonderful and I love it. I appreciate that this fake director is so dedicated to practical effects. I wish every director and writer or whatever else was that dedicated to practical effects, because it's just better. Yeah, it's just a fun time. And I also appreciate that the whole thing is just a love letter to stunt people, because they have probably the hardest job. They're literally getting thrown out of windows, crashing cars, getting hit by cars, getting dropped from very high and very tall heights. They're just getting run through the meat grinder, and they get no recognition except, you know, in the credits, which nobody watches anyway, unless you're weird like me, my boyfriend, and my brother, who will just sit there through the credits. We don't sit there and read all of them. We'll pay attention to them, but usually it ends up turning into just talking about the movie. But we sit through all the credits. Most people don't do that. But yeah, and they have a whole montage during the credits, like montage and then credits rolling beside it, of literally just all of their stunt people from the movie, and just showing appreciation, love. Yes. Show love to the stuntmen. They deserve it. So yeah, that one's a fun time. I also watched Arthur the King, which I know was on my list of things that when I sent out that post. It's a great feel-good movie, honestly. Mark Wahlberg. My brother has his opinions about Mark Wahlberg. On all honesty, I like him in the specific strain of movie. Like, in the based on true events kind of feel-good stories, he does very well. He sort of plays a similar character, but not the same character every time. I feel like that's his vein of movie, is like the based on true events, feel-good stories. Like Instant Family. I love and own Instant Family. He's the dad in that one. And he's in this one. And there are more, I think. But not off the top of my head that I can think of. But yeah, I feel like he does great in those kinds of roles. I think that's just like the vein of movie that he's good in. Because I think all actors pretty much, except for some incredible exceptions, they have kind of their vein of movie that they work best in, whether that be action or horror or whatever. This feel good based on true stories movies is Mark Wahlberg's vein of movie. So I personally like him in those. I haven't seen him in a lot of other kinds of movies, so I'm not sure how he does in them. I just know what my brother has kind of said. I don't like him as much. I don't know if his opinion has changed since he said that, but yeah. I personally enjoy him in the things that I've watched him in, which are just the feel-good movies. So yeah, that one was also a very fun time. It was very sweet and very wholesome, and I enjoyed it. And I think most of the time the dog was real. There are probably a couple times where it was CGI, but not many, which I appreciate. I feel like a lot of stuff that was happening in the movie they actually did, just with a lot more safety precautions than what is shown in the movie. So yes, I appreciate how well like the movie looks. because there's not a whole lot of CGI going on. Not that there's a whole lot needed, but you know, there are some people in this industry who would just completely CGI for people riding down a decades-old zip line with bikes hanging underneath them. Like, a lot of people, honestly, in Hollywood nowadays would just CGI that scene. Or, yeah, like the scene where she hooks onto his bike and then drops to hang underneath him so he can slide down. Yeah, it's sad that that's the reality of right now, of like the industry right now. But like, it also makes the ones that don't do that and have like the actual practical stuff happening, or they like actually do the stunts for it or whatever, it makes me appreciate them more. I just wish more movies were like that. Yeah, that's mostly what I have to say. I like it. I really like it. It's a great feel-good movie. And then, the one I have a rant about is Moulin Rouge. First of all, Ewan McGregor can sing? Why did I not know this? Why did I not know that Ewan McGregor could sing? It's not okay that I didn't know this. I had kind of the big main song from that movie on my playlist because I found it through other means. And then I looked at the like artists or whatever and it said Ewan McGregor. I'm like, what the frick? No way. And he's actually singing it because, you know, if it had been someone else that they voiced over him, it would have had that, because they have that with Never Enough from Greatest Showman, where it says Lauren Elred, not whatever the actress's name was. So he sung it, and the voice definitely fits to him. Like, you look at him and you can imagine him having that voice. So that just baffled me when I first saw that. So yes, that was a pleasant surprise. Not the strongest singer, because, you know, he has Jeremy Jordan to compete with, and no one can compete with Jeremy Jordan, so. But yeah, like, not the strongest singer, but he's a good singer. And then what, Nicole something? Kidman? I don't remember the actress's name, the main lady. Satine, we'll just call her by her character name, Satine. But yeah, it's kind of a strange movie, a little bit. Because part of it, because it's really, we're living through the story as a, you know, future, I guess. Ewan McGregor writes the story, and so there's moments of narration that are just a little ridiculous, and they're meant to be funny. They are, but it makes for an interesting format for how the movie plays, and just kind of the feel of the movie overall. Yeah, and then there's some ridiculousness happening. Just because the overall story is we have Christian, Ewan McGregor's character, comes to Paris, and through a crazy series of events, gets involved with this group of players, whatever, actors, involved in this bohemian play, which is connected to the Moulin Rouge. So Satine and her boss Harold are involved, and they're kind of like not the funding, but like they're in charge of it. And they're trying to get funding from this duke. And so there's a whole weird love triangle happening. Part of it one-sided. The Duke loves Satine, Christian loves Satine, Satine loves Christian. And is pretending to like the Duke so that they can get his money, so that they can have this play, so that she can, you know, hopefully become a real actress. And on top of that, she has what, tuberculosis? Was it tuberculosis? I don't remember. They don't actually say what it is because it's in like 1890s, so they don't actually know what the disease is, but it's something like tuberculosis. I don't know what it is actually. But anyway, she's super sick and dying, but she doesn't know that. She's just like, I'm sick and I'm dealing with it. Yeah. So that's what's happening. And in the midst of this, because he got involved with all of this and there's crazy things happening, they have to give a pitch to the Duke of what the play is. And Christian gets carried away, and it's literally just the story of him meeting Satine and him having, and then the dynamic of him meeting Satine having to be like, they're the situation. You're literally just telling the story of the movie through the play. And so there's so much foreshadowing happening that way, and there's so many like because everyone is aware that the play is just what's happening besides the Duke. The Duke is just oblivious to everything. And so they're using these excuses, and Satine and Christian are planning meetups with each other to, do romantic things right in front of the Duke, because they're doing it in the context of the play. He's like, we need to write this scene, and like is overly specific about what the scene is, and she's like, yes, and answers in a similar way. We need to do that. And then they meet up and they're not actually working on the play. Meanwhile, the Duke is a crazy jealous man and goes, no, she can't be with anyone except me, because she's mine. And makes Harold sign a contract that says as much and has the deeds to the Moulin Rouge as collateral. So it's just all crazy and kind of ridiculous, but it's great and I do enjoy it. It's also a jukebox musical, and the covers aren't the greatest, but I do love Come What May. It's a great song, and it's the main one, so yeah, it's sung multiple times, and there's a few of the covers that aren't bad, but some of them are just ridiculous. But yeah, it's kind of great, and I do like it. And now we get into the rant. This rant comes from a reaction to this movie that I watched on Hannah Bale's channel. I might just tag her down there. But she reacted to Moulin Rouge, and because it's plagiarism and all that, copywriting, not plagiarism. She had to cut things out, so you really only get like a highlight reel essentially of her reaction to the movie. But by the end of it, she's basically hating on Christian's character, and she's like, wow, I don't actually like him anymore. Like, what is this reaction to what's happening in the movie? I'm just going to disagree right out of the gate. Hannah, no offense, you're underthinking the situation. So, yes, basically, she gets mad because Christian gets really, really mad at Satine. And so he goes back to Moulin Rouge during this opening performance of this play, because they finally finish it. She had basically said, I don't love you, go. I'm gonna go with the Duke. Because the Duke had threatened to kill Christian if she didn't, and if he showed up at the play. And so she's like, he's going to fight for me if I don't make him believe that I don't love him anymore. And if he shows up, he's going to die. And so she tells him to stay away and makes him believe it, and then goes off to the play. He tracks her down and says, I want to pay you. I'm trying to settle my debt. And he's super pissed off because he truly believed that she loved him, and now she did, and now she's making him believe that she doesn't in order to save his life. But this, pisses him off, and he gets really mad, and he's yelling at her, and in front of this entire crowd, he drops the money on her and goes, I paid my whore, you guys can have her, and starts walking away. Hannah got very mad at that reaction. I'm not saying your reaction is wrong. He did not do a good thing, but as someone who is cursed with the inability to not overthink, incoming rant. Okay, so this partially comes from just my worldview of Christianity and sex being a very intimate, very exclusive thing that you only do within the confines of marriage. Okay, so we have Christian, who has never done it. Has literally said in the beginning of the movie, I had never been in love before. And then meets Satine, falls in love. Satine is kind of a prostitute. She is a can-can dancer. She is a showgirl. She sells herself to different guys in order to, you know, like, upkeep of the Moulin Rouge. So she doesn't have that. So she's like, him has no, still has kind of that innocent and pure view of what sex is. And then we have Satine, who has done it with lots of people. And so she doesn't have that as much of a, I don't know what word I'm thinking of, but like, she doesn't have the same view of sex. She's just like, it's not as a serious of a thing to her, I guess, because of this past that she's had. And so they meet, they fall in love. They're, you know, doing this. And so he has, sex is a very intimate, emotional thing. Anyone who understands anything about that, it's very emotional. Like, I haven't, so I don't completely understand it, but I do know enough to realize with, you know, yeah, it's very intimate, it's very emotional, and it bonds you in a very, very intimate way. So, him, for the first time, doing that with her. And then the things are happening, the plot's happening, and she's like, I need to go do this with the Duke, otherwise all of this is going to, everything we've been trying to build and what we've worked for is going to fall apart. And doing it in almost a casual way, like, it's not casual, but she's not talking about it with like the weight, I guess, that goes with that action, because she doesn't understand, she like had lost the weight and the importance of that action because of her past. And then we have Christian, who's not understanding that view, I guess, she has of it, because she's the first woman he's ever done it with. So he feels the weight of that, and he feels the importance of that. And so her going, I'm gonna go do this with another man, and to him going, what the heck, no. And so then fighting that jealousy, that makes perfect sense. And up until the very end of the movie, when she drives the nail in and says, I don't love you, leave, he handles it pretty well. Like, he fights it off. He's like, she's doing this for a good reason, because she explains to him, like, if I do not do this, we will lose everything. And he's like, okay, I will not be jealous. I promise I'm not gonna do anything dumb. And he doesn't. He handles it very, very well. And then, you know, the Duke finds out, obviously, because why wouldn't he? And things kind of, lots of crazy things happen. And then, yeah, he goes, I'm going to kill Christian if he shows up at the opening night. You are mine. And you just have to accept that. And so then, you know, she goes to him and goes, I'm staying with the Duke. He promised me everything I wanted. I'm staying with the Duke. And he goes, no, tell me the truth. Because the truth is, this is who I am. You've known this from the beginning. He's giving me what I want. I'm staying with him. And in order to save his life, makes him believe she never loved him and that she was playing him for a fool. So first, take the jealousy that he has for the Duke because of his view of sex. It makes perfect sense. And so taking then that and throwing on top, like, so that thing he's already fighting with and struggling with, and he's been able to handle it and keep a lid on it because he knows Satine loves me, not him. She's just doing this to protect us, and to protect everything we've built. And then throwing in that sense of betrayal of him going, she doesn't actually love me. What on earth? And having that, basically the nail in the coffin. So obviously he's gonna get pissed because, like, you did all of this and none of it was real. How could you do all of this and none of it is real? And so quite understandably, in my opinion, he gets pissed off, but he's not actually going to do anything about it. He's just gonna, like, shut himself in his room and be away from everyone for a while. And then one of the actors who, you know, he's befriended is goes up to him because he got knocked out by the police, because, you know, he's like, I'm not giving up that easily, and goes to the Moulin Rouge, but, you know, he's kind of been kicked out. And so he wakes up and they're talking, and he goes, and his, you know, actor friend goes, I still believe that she loves you. Like, love is my thing, essentially. It's like, I don't believe that she doesn't love you. I believe she loves you with everything she has. And he's just like, no, don't give me hope, and freaks out at him. And then his friend leaves, and he sits there and he goes, okay, but what if she still does? And then has this now warring inside of him, and that's what pushes him to go to the opening of the play in the first place. But then getting there, seeing her, there's a whole lot. It's like all of the emotions are coming up, and so he freaks out and he starts following around. It's like, let me pay you. Let me pay my bill for you, you know, pretending to making me believe you love me, and then I will go. And that's basically what he's going with it, is because this betrayal is really overpowering everything that's happening, like everything in his brain. And yeah, freaks out and says some hurtful things. And then she comes out, it's like, no, it's not true. I need to fix this. And so starts, you know, in the midst of the play, because they're all doing this in the midst of a performance, starts trying to explain, essentially. Not necessarily what's happening, because like that's kind of hard to do in the midst of a play, but like basically goes saying, I still love you, which is the Come What May song, is kind of the secret love song, and starts singing that, and he goes, wait, so that is the reality, and kind of giving him a reality check on that, and then the ending of it. So am I justifying what he did? No. What he did was not right. He should not have talked to her that way. He should not have done the things he did. But if you think about the situation and you think about the things that led up to that, and it's completely understandable in the way he reacted, because as logical as a person is, at some point, your emotions will scream louder than your thoughts, and you won't be able to drown them out, and you will then act on those emotions instead of the rational thoughts in your head. It's like, he might know one thing, but the betrayal and that loss and whatever that comes with everything that happened in the movie, that's going to start screaming louder and louder and louder. Like, it starts, you know, yelling at him when she first goes to the Duke, but he's got that other hope. He's got that underlying hope of, she loves me though, and that tamps it down a little bit, along with, you know, the logical reasoning of, if she doesn't do this, we lose everything. But then rip away that thing that's kind of holding back those negative emotions, and just add that on, that heartbreak and that anger and all of the emotions that go with that. Then he's got nothing to tamp. No, he's got no emotions to hold back all of the rest of them. And so just going on, so they start screaming even louder and louder and louder until he can't even hear his thoughts anymore. It's just his emotions, and that's why he freaks out. Like, you all know exactly what I'm talking about, right? We all understand this underlying idea that, like, emotions, they scream really, really loud. They are not always right. Like, in the Bible, it says the heart is deceitful and evil. And that's why the ideology that follow your heart does not work. But anyway, it's deceitful and it's evil. And because of that, we don't follow your heart, obviously. But it screams so loudly at us. It's, pardon my analogy here. Again, I do not want to cause people offense, but it's going to happen because these are my beliefs and I'm going to share them freely. Okay? So, we have the LGBTQ plus community, whatever. They are the minority. We all know that. And then the rest of us, I don't want to say normal people, but like straight people, straight, normal, I don't know the word for like staying the gender that you were at birth. Anyway, there's a minority of the LGBTQ plus community, and then there's everybody else. They're the minority. We are the majority. They're the heart. Like, everything they say is like, follow the heart. This is how I feel I am. They're the heart. We're the head. The more rational, like, this is who I am despite how I feel. Okay. We'll stick to movies, okay? I know not everyone in this minority or whatever is the ones doing it, but you know how we get all of this, all of these scenes, you know, those kinds of scenes in movies now. It's like a required thing in your content. You have to have something like that involved in the movie, otherwise they get backlash. The reason they get backlash is because the minority over here, again, I know they're not all a part of this community. Some of them are just weirdos from over here. They are just screaming so freaking loud that no one over here gets heard. All of these people who's like, we don't care about this. Some of these people are even like from this community that we don't care. That is not why we're here. We don't need this representation. And yet we have the minority over here that are just screaming louder and louder until someone just puts it in there to satisfy them so that they stop screaming so loud. So, and it's not even, most of the time those scenes that are thrown in there, they're not even the most well written, and it just doesn't fit and it doesn't flow and it's not natural, and it feels like it was just thrown in there because like, oh, we have to do this, otherwise these guys are going to scream at us. And that's kind of how your heart and your head work. You have this minority, this smaller thing, these less important, this more rational things, and then you have the more rational side of you, the brain. It's a bigger part of your body, in all honestly, and not just anatomically. And we have this side screaming so loud at you with all of your feelings that there are times you cannot hear what's happening over here in your brain, and all of the rational stuff gets drowned out by your feelings, and because of that, you do stupid things. So, I'm not mad at Christian's character. I completely understand why he would react that way. It makes perfect sense to me. So in that case, in that scenario, I disagree with you, Hannah. I truly believe that the way he reacted is completely feasible, completely understandable, and just not right, but like based on everything that's happened and the chain of events, makes perfect sense. I'm done ranting, I promise. So yeah, that's Moulin Rouge. I just really need to get that rant out of there. Because I was sitting there with that in my head the entire time I was watching the movie and going like, okay, how are they gonna ruin Christian's character then, I guess? Because again, in Hannah's YouTube reactions, we don't get the entire movie playing out, so I don't know everything that happened in the movie. So it's like, okay, how are they gonna ruin this? Like, how is this going to get ruined? And then it didn't. It made perfect sense to me. So I just had to put it in there. So yeah, those are my thoughts on all of these random movies. Hopefully after camp, I will be able to get into another show so then I can have something that I can like get invested in and do for a while, and then come back and have another long rant about the one thing instead of trying to figure out a bunch of little things. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Share yours in the comments. Drop any recommendations or suggestions that you might have, requests, whatever. And I post videos on this channel every Wednesday and Saturday, and on the audiobook channel on Thursdays. I'll see you guys next time.